Now, because remember, a preference is very different to a deal breaker. Hi, welcome, come on in. My name is Aoife and today I am taking you through some of my bookish preferences. This is a tag that was created by Merphy from Merphy Napier, who I have watched probably since before my booktube journey even began. I found her to be so calming, so gentle, such a wonderful and engaging presence on camera that she was kind of almost an inspiration for me to get started. So doing a tag that was created by her kind of feels like going full circle. Let's start with question 1. What is your favorite perspective to read? I prefer to read a perspective from the first person. I really love getting into your main character's brain, seeing what they're thinking, going through the whole day with them start to finish, and feeling exactly the way that they're feeling because they're telling you exactly it using I, using me, rather than it being a them, they, he, she kind of story. I feel like reading a book in the third person is fine, and I do it and I enjoy doing it. But if it's a first person book, it just draws me into the story a little bit more. The next question is, what is your preference for a format? And I prefer paperback to any other kind of book. I find it so much better to just sit and engross yourself in a story while you're holding it in your hands, while you can feel the paper in your hands. I prefer paperbacks to hardbacks because I find hardbacks to be much heavier, much thicker. They're harder to bring around with you. They can be kind of heavy in your backpack and they can definitely put strain on your shoulders or your back if you're carrying them in your bag. Of the e-formats, I love an audiobook, but that hasn't always been the case. I really got into reading audiobooks in around 2020 when the whole world was shutting down. Books were not as easy to come by, and I was getting much more into using my audio app from my library. I was using Scribd a lot more, and I was opening my world into different ways of experiencing storytelling. I also really enjoy an ebook just purely for the convenience. I love having nearly 500 books at the tip of my fingers when I bring my Kindle with me. I never bring a physical book while I'm traveling. I will only ever bring my Kindle while I'm traveling with me because it's much more convenient, it takes up a lot more space, and I have access to a lot more books with that. So if I were to go by what my preferences are in order, it is probably paperback, then an ebook, then an audiobook, then a hardback book. Question 3, do you prefer a book that is character driven or plot driven? I am much more of a character reader than a plot reader. I love following a character throughout their journey in the book. I love seeing them overcome adversity or achieve the goals that they had set out to get at the start of the book, or to fall in love with the person that they wanted to fall in love with, learn a skill that they wanted to learn, defeat something that they wanted to defeat. I like a plot book. I like getting caught up in a plot, but for me, the characters have to be enjoyable for me to want to read on further. If I'm reading a book where I don't care about the characters, where I find them really unlikable, really hard to read, I don't generally tend to pick up the book as much as I usually would. Question 5 is, do you care about prose? And the answer is not particularly. I like a book to be well written. I like a book to flow well. I like the writing to engage me. I like the writing to grasp me. And now that I use Copilot to rate my books, writing does usually tend to have quite a high score for me. But I wouldn't necessarily say that the writing is the be all or end all for me. The characters can often overtake that, or the atmosphere can often overtake that, or the logic or how much I enjoyed it in overall term can often overtake that. So I think that writing and the writing style is important for me, but it's not the be all or end all that it might be for some others. Next question is, how introspective do you like your characters to be? And I don't know if I want them to be super introspective, but I do want them to be able to sit back and think about their actions, to be able to think about why they are doing the things that they are doing, why they think the way that they are thinking. I like them to have some kind of an idea as to who they are as people. I like them to have some kind of a thought process as to why and how and who. But I don't necessarily need to sit and read them having an existential crisis. I feel like that will take me out of the book quite a bit. Question 6 is, how do you like your relationships in books? And I like them to be drama free. I don't love reading about a drama filled relationship the whole way through the book. I like it to be some level of stable. I like there to not be a whole lot of he said, she said, we said, they said. I don't necessarily want to be caught up in an argument the whole way through the book, because I feel like that can be very triggering. I feel like that can be really difficult to read when the tempers are flared so often. I do read quite a lot of romance books, so you do get that third act breakup quite a lot. You do get people shouting at each other or saying things that they didn't mean to say and they can't take it back now. But I think if I read a book where that was just the whole way through the book, I would get turned off of it so quickly. Question 7 is, do you like a lot of description? Yes, but not overly so. I'd like authors to kind of go along the show but don't tell situation, where you can see that they are crying by their body language. You can see that they are crying by how they're feeling inside. You can see that they have tears streaming down their face, but you're not instantly told, and Gemma was crying the whole time. I feel like if you give me the subtle hints, I'm going to pick up on it. I feel like if you slap me across the face with it, it's sometimes just a little bit too on the nose. Question 9, single or multiple POV? Multiple POV, especially because I read a lot of romance books, really does it for me. I love seeing both characters fall in love with each other. Both characters come to terms with their feelings for each other. It gives me a lot more thoughts to process. It gives me a lot more of an insight into all of the characters, but I feel like there does have to be a limit. If it's a book with a huge cast of characters, I do feel like the perspectives have to be kind of capped at some level. I don't want to read a book with 17 different POVs, but I also don't want to read a book with one POV all the time. I do love seeing other people's thoughts. I do love getting into the mind of other characters, but I don't need to have everybody's thoughts on my mind all the time. The final question is, do you prefer a strong start, strong middle, or a strong end? And the start really, really has to be strong for me. In Irish, we have a proverb, tus ma lacna hibra, which translates to a good start is half the work. And for me, that definitely rings true with books. If the first 50 pages of your book are slow, if they just plod along, if I'm not really getting along with the characters, if I'm not really seeing where I should be going with this story, chances are quite high that I'm going to DNF it. But if the first 50 pages of your story have an engaging plot, have characters that I want to know more about, maybe have a tiny little twist that I want to figure out how this is happening or how we're getting there, I'm in. You have completely got a buyer here. I need to know what's happening. Those are some of my bookish preferences. Do you agree with any of those, or do you have any of those that you want to challenge me on? If you'd love to leave me a comment but you can't think of anything you'd like to say, then just leave me the shrugging emoji. Don't forget to like and subscribe because I have new videos up every week. Now, get on out of here.